What's up guys, it's your boy ABC Delicious. I'm back yet again with another video. First and foremost, I hope everyone is doing well out there. Stay safe, stay strong. We're gonna make it through this time period which I affectionately call extended Black Mirror episode. That's basically how I refer to COVID-19 and all this wackiness. So, for today's video, I'll talk about a movie that came out in March 2021 called Justice League. But before I can talk about this movie, I feel like I have to talk about the movie that came out several years ago that was connected to this. So basically in 2017, Warner Brothers released the original Justice League, and the director at the time was Zack Snyder, but then he had to leave kind of mid-movie because one of his family members was sick, or something like that. I don't really remember. If you want to refresh my memory, you can put it down in the comments down below. And they got Josh Whedon of Angel Buffy fame to take over the helm and finish up the movie. So the movie comes out, it's very comedic. He edited out a lot of stuff because, you know, as a director, you kind of put your own vision on it. And the movie was universally deadpan, got horrific ratings, basically almost sunk the whole DC universe. So for me, this is just my opinion, which I feel like a lot of fanboys or nerds like me would say, which is that Marvel and the people in charge of the whole Marvel cinematic universe have done a phenomenal job of kind of getting you to be invested in the characters. They kind of are able to build up these individual franchises, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, now the Black Widow, Captain America, etc. And then it gets the people excited when they team up once a year or whatever for the inevitable Avengers movie, right? Avengers Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, etc. Whereas in my opinion, I feel like Warner Brothers and the people who are in charge of the DC cinematic universe have kind of stumbled out of the gate. The original Superman was deemed too dark, kind of lacking that joy. For me, the original Superman with Christopher Reeve still holds up today. For all you kids out there, go back and watch that movie if you want to know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so that movie came out. I thought it was pretty good, but some people kind of complained it was a little bit too dark. Superman versus Batman, the next one. Cool idea of them fighting, but the story didn't really make sense. They're kind of fighting for no reason. For me, the only standout for that movie is just the introduction of Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot. And then after that, what? Suicide Squad. Again, universally deadpan. Funny note, with the success of the Snyder Cut, which I'm going to talk about in 1 second, the original director of that movie, I think it's David Ayers. Please correct me in the comments down below if I'm wrong. He also wants them to release the Ayers cut, so I guess I'm assuming that's a kind of a fuller movie, sort of. But anyway, coming back to this, in conclusion, I think Marvel has done a better job of introducing their characters, getting the audience invested in the characters, and then building it up. So it's kind of organic, whereas DC, they've been kind of fumbling around, and it seems like they're in a rush to kind of catch up, if that makes sense. So, but I do think they have been improving. The first Wonder Woman, I thought that was really good. Aquaman, I enjoyed. It was very quirky, very interesting, because usually Aquaman, you don't think of him as a badass, you think of him as kind of a pansy. It's like, ooh, you can talk to fish. Like, wow, you're special. It's kind of like, he's kind of like made fun of, or like, oh, you know, the bad guy's not in the ocean, what are you gonna do? But in this retelling, I thought Jason Momoa as Aquaman was like really on point, epic. And then after that, the subsequent Suicide Squad movie, the second one, the Suicide Squad movie, which, shameless self-plug, you can check out my review in one of my previous episodes, was really good as well. So I think DC is starting to catch up with Marvel as far as making characters and people that we're interested in, kind of building that franchise. So in 2017, that movie came out, it bombed severely, all the critics hated it, and severely hurt the DC cinematic universe, if you will. So after that movie, I don't know how people heard about this. It was like a deep throat situation, or it's interesting in this age, like people know everything basically. All of a sudden, the fans and people out there started hearing about and were clamoring for what they would call the Snyder Cut, like release the Snyder Cut. People were talking about it on Twitter, they were hashtagging it, they were putting pressure on the studios. They were putting pressure on Warner Brothers to kind of release this. So at the beginning, Warner Brothers was like, we're not going to release it, this movie is not the movie that we want out there, doesn't exist, or whatever they said. But then, because like the fans were so relentless, people kept talking about it. 3 years later, in I believe March of 2021, they released the Snyder Cut. Now, after seeing this movie, I would say I can understand why this did not initially come out. First and foremost, the movie is 4 hours long, and most movies nowadays, I feel like in the movie theater or just in general, I think you can do maybe 2 hours the max. Maybe, can you do 2.5 hours? I don't know. But basically 4 hours was too long. That's probably what the studios were thinking about. But for me, for the 4 hours, it's really good because of the additional time. There's a lot more character development. You get to learn a lot more of the characters in the Justice League. It is not really a rush job, if you will. So in the extended cut, you learn a lot more about Cyborg, you learn a lot more about the Flash, and because in the original 2017 movie, their backstory is not explored as much as it is in this one. So when you watch this movie, and if you've seen the original one, you're like, oh my god, they are missing like so much stuff. And by the way, this movie did come out like 5 or 6 months ago, so just to warn you, I might drop some spoilers. So, if for some reason you've been hiding under a rock or in a cave and you don't want to know, you can just give me a like, comment, subscribe, and then you can fast forward this. But anyway, basically, there's more character development. The Snyder Cut, there's not as much, there's humor, but it's not this kind of cringe humor that Joss Whedon was going for. And also, for me, the special effects are a little bit wonky in general, but it's definitely better than the 27 cut. And so I would say this. Long story short, if you're willing to invest 4 hours, or if you saw the original and you're like, this is god-awful, give this a chance. And especially if you're a DC fan, or just a comic book fan in general, or since we're in the middle of COVID or lockdown, depending where you live and you have time, go ahead and watch it. The 4 hours go by rather briskly, I would say. So, in this movie, I would say Ben Affleck as Batman, he does an okay job. For me, I'm a Christian Bale stan. I thought him and Christopher Nolan killed it with the Batman series. I thought they killed it already. And people really like Michael Keaton when he was doing it. I like it in a nostalgic way. It's really good, but for me, I think, and maybe this is going to get me killed online, you guys can comment down below if you disagree or agree with me. I just feel like Christian Bale was a better Batman than Michael Keaton. And I'm an old guy too, so it's not like recency bias or anything like that. But Ben Affleck does a pretty good job. Henry Cavill, I think, is an awesome Superman. He's jacked. He kind of brings that like American patriotism. I don't want to say naivete, but kind of like we're all gonna do this together. I'm the strongest guy in the room, but I need your help, that kind of thing. Gal Gadot, awesome as Wonder Woman. There were some complaints. It's very interesting. You can YouTube this. You can go look for this on YouTube. I think even Conan O'Brien talks about it, how like the nerd boys, which I'm a part of, wanted someone more buxomy or AKA your breast or something, but I think Gal Gadot is like fierce, awesome, and does a good job of channeling that Amazonian warrior spirit, if you will. Who else is in there? Ezra Miller does a really good job. I'm not really familiar with his work, but I know he's kind of considered a really good actor, and I think he does a really good job as a Flash, kind of this like, I don't know, like it's kind of like a younger Flash, like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm surrounded by Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. These are like the Beatles of superheroes. I don't know what to do. I'm kind of a fanboy. But it's kind of, I think he has a good point of view. It would be kind of like if I was in the Justice League, or if you were in the Justice League. would you be that confident? Even if you had superpowers, maybe you'd be like, oh my god, this is kind of like intense and this is awesome. He does a good job. The guy who plays Cyborg, Ray, man, I looked up his name too before. It's Ray something. Again, you can correct me down in the comments down below. He does a really good job as Cyborg because you kind of have to straddle the fence between, because I don't know if you guys know the story of Cyborg, but basically he is a football star, I want to say college, I believe, and then he's involved in a horrific accident. His dad, who works at, I'm going to say Star Labs, but again, if I'm wrong with this, please feel free to correct me down below. His son's going to die, so he ends up kind of turning him into this like half robot, half human, and you know, Cyborg, duh. He does a really good job too. It's kind of interesting to hear about the fallout later that he was kind of complaining about Josh Whedon and Warner Brothers allowing kind of, I don't know if they want to call it bullying on set or what have you, and he's talked about it quite candidly and maybe put his job on the line, and his job might be in jeopardy for future subsequent films. Who knows, right? He does a good job. Jason Momoa did an awesome job as Aquaman, because growing up, or just in general, when you think of Aquaman, you think of him kind of as a joke. You're like, oh, Aquaman, you're so great. What can you do? You can talk to the fish. Or it's like, Superman, we need you to fly here. Batman, we need you to use your deductive reasoning to do this. Wonder Woman, we need you to do this. Aquaman, there's nothing going on in the ocean. We don't need you. But I do kind of like the revamp. He's kind of like a badass. He's got tattoos, etc., etc. The Aquaman movie I thought was really good, really funky, so I think that's about it. Oh, forgive me again, I don't know the voice actor who played Steppenwolf. For me, Steppenwolf was alright as a villain, obviously. For me, I guess because it's the first movie, you're kind of building it up. For me, I would have liked Darkseid. Darkseid is basically the DC version of Thanos, like an all-powerful guy. If you ever read the comics, he's like tougher and stronger than Superman. He's got the Omega beams, which are basically these optic beams. Once he shoots it at you, it's kind of like heat-seeking missiles where they keep going after you until it hits someone. So I felt like Steppenwolf was alright, but then again, it's kind of, one minor critique of this is because you got Superman in the movie, Superman is too OP. OP means overpowered for you non-nerd types. So once he gets on the scene, it's kind of tough because he gets kind of overwhelmed. I'll leave that at that. But like I said before, because of the additional time, you have a lot of cool stuff. Like the Flash gets to meet Iris West. Who's Iris West? Iris West becomes his future girlfriend / wife, etc. So they have a kind of like a cool little scene over there. With Cyborg, it's just there's more backstory, more information, which wasn't present on the 2017 version. Basically, in a nutshell, the 2017 version was like very watered down, and it was 2 hours, but it still felt very rushed, especially when you have 5, 6, or even, I don't know how many people there are on there, like 5, 6, 7 Justice Leaguers. They all need time to kind of shine. So with the additional 2 hours, everyone kind of gets their chance to do their thing on screen, chew the scenery as you will. So at the end of the day, how would I rate this movie? I would probably give it a 7.5, I would say. It's a lot better than the original. For me, still not as good as like Avengers Endgame, that kind of thing, to me, it never had that scene, and I feel like I could spoil this, because Avengers Endgame came out, last year? It never had an awesome scene where like Captain America lifted Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, or Robert Downey Jr. like, I am Iron Man, or that kind of scene when he died. Like in the theater, people were like crying and people were yelling when Captain America picked up the hammer. It was such like an organic, almost like, I don't even want to say orgasmic, but in a way, kind of. Everyone was so excited and hyped. The Justice League movie, it was really good, it was really cool, but for me, it didn't really have any of those type of moments. I mean, for me, there was one cool part when Superman has to fight is fighting everyone in the Justice League, and Flash who's known as the fastest man alive, he's doing his like Flash stuff, speeding around, and it's kind of cool. Superman's fighting the other people, and you can slowly see that like Superman can keep track of what he's doing. When Flash goes really fast, he kind of enters something called the Speed Force. Go Google that if you want. And then it was just kind of interesting to see Flash's reaction, like, oh man, this guy's pretty fast too. He's just like a smidgen slower than the Flash, basically. Yeah, so for me, if you're a fan, this is a definite must-see. If you're a casual fan, or if you have a time during the pandemic, which we all do, I still recommend going seeing this movie. And with this, with I said before, Aquaman, the original Wonder Woman, the second Wonder Woman, maybe I'll do a review. I wasn't as satisfied with. I didn't really enjoy it as much. And the Suicide Squad, which just came out, I'm a little bit more optimistic about DC's future. So bottom line, this is a must-watch if you're a DC or Justice League fan. If you're a casual fan and you're not well-versed in the comic book universe, I would say this is like a rent, or you can watch it. So that's basically it for this video. If you could go ahead and please comment, like, and subscribe down below, it really helps me out. And until the next video, peace!